Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome back to another episode of Rewire to Inspire. The show where we'll dive into self-love, learn tangible ways to rewire the brain, and discovering your soul's purpose. The goal of Rewire to Inspire is to encourage listeners to begin doing the hard work, to get curious and open to maximizing your life. Our mindset shapes how we live. Depending on life events, traumas, and personal experiences, our mindsets are all vastly different. However, one thing we all have in common is the ability to rewire our mind, to change the narrative, and to pivot our lives. I hope you leave each episode with the belief that you are so worthy to live a life true to you. I look forward to chatting with you every single Tuesday and Thursday and helping you grow exponentially in all areas of your life. Without further ado, here's today's episode. Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome back to my podcast, Rewire to Inspire. I am super duper excited to be jumping on the microphone with you all for episode number 117. It is such a beautiful, sunny, amazing Saturday here where I live. I just got back from a beautiful walk with my sister-in-law and my nephew. We went for a beautiful 1-hour walk this morning. Walking is just such a great way to get out of the house while exercising, getting fresh air, noticing your surroundings, getting out and about. And so this is your sign to maybe go for a walk, or maybe you're out for a walk right now. And nonetheless, hello, you guys. I hope you're doing well. I hope your April is going well. I cannot believe today, when I record this episode, is the 15th. When this episode comes out, it will already be the third week of April. I don't know about you, but to me, that just seems impossible that time is moving this fast. I'm curious if anybody else feels like time is just moving at an unfathomable speed lately. Like, I don't feel like life used to go quite this fast, but it just reminds us to never take a moment for granted, to come back to the present moment as much as possible so we can soak up and enjoy each and every day, because each and every day truly is a gift. But without further ado, you guys, I am so excited to be jumping on here for today's episode. Talking about inner child work is one of my favorite topics in the whole wide world. Again, I like to keep these very surface level. As always, my content is not a substitute for proper therapy or counseling. It is in no way a diagnosis. It is in no way encouraging you not to seek professional support. My podcast is here to provide education, awareness, stories based on my experiences, and things that I've learned that I want to share with you all. But the reason that I want to talk about today's episode is because I was listening to Mel Robbins' podcast this week, who is honestly one of my role models. I look up to her in so many different ways. And she was interviewing somebody named Dr. Kennedy. Dr. Kennedy was his name. And they were talking all about anxiety and how to heal anxiety. And one of the main things that they talked about in the podcast episode was how anxiety and our inner child are pretty much best friends, and how they kind of go hand in hand. And so for today, for episode 117, I want to talk about why inner child work is so important. The thing about anxiety that I don't think that we realize is that it can be healed. It can be tended to. It can be resolved in a way. But it starts by noticing what anxiety means for you. What is your relationship with that? Furthermore, to expand on that question, what is your relationship with your inner child? When I even say the word inner child, I want you to use your own dialogue and self-assess what comes up for you. Do you think of a particular memory? Do you think of somebody younger than you? Can you picture yourself? What comes up for you uniquely is going to be a great place to start. I then want you to ask, what is my relationship with anxiety? Am I someone, sorry if that was super loud, I just hit the microphone. Are you somebody who experiences anxiety a lot? Is it in certain situations? Is it around certain people? Was it around a certain phase of your life? What is your relationship with inner child, and what is your relationship with anxiety? Because the thing is anxiety shows up in our adult bodies, our older self bodies, as unhealed parts of our childhood experiences. And again, not all things. We can be anxious about things because we are nervous about them or worried about them. But this is more when we're, dealing with anxiety a lot of the time and we don't seem to know a reason for it. We can't seem to get a tangible reason of why we're feeling that way. And it's almost like we get frustrated because we're like, no matter what I do, I just feel anxious. I feel overwhelmed. What is this? And the thing is even if you feel like you had a flawless childhood, you feel like, you had supportive parents, you had a great environment, you were supported, you were loved, you were validated, you were tended to, whatever. You just feel like you had a picture perfect, flawless childhood. The thing is taking our older selves back to our inner child experiences holds so much power. It allows us to look back at a time of our life where we didn't really have a lot of control from a lens now where we have a lot more control. We're able to look at it from a safety standpoint now, should you be in a safe place now, and to reflect backwards. And it really allows us the permission and observation of why we are the way that we are. Because the thing is our inner child is us, whether we want to acknowledge that or not. We have to be willing to, I've been saying be detectives a lot, be curious a lot, because I do truly think that that is how we begin to get answers, by beginning to reflect for ourselves. Because I think what happens is so many of us go through life, right? We grow up, we kind of forget about our past experiences. It's almost like they've already passed, they've existed, like we don't care about them anymore, let's move on. And we just keep growing up. But we forget about those phases of our life that have leaked into where we are. And then depending where you're at, with self-awareness and with growth and with healing and all those things, that is when it's going to become important to bring our inner child life into our conscious mind. If you are someone who does not care about healing, does not care about evolving, does not care about becoming a better version of yourself, does not care about understanding why the way that you are, you don't really have to go and explore that. But if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're probably curious about that. You're probably curious on optimizing your life. And one of the best ways that we can start that is by looking at our past experiences, because they shape and hold the answers of why we are the way we are, why we respond the way we respond, why we carry ourselves the way we carry ourselves, our reactions to things, our threshold of things, our tolerance to things. It really makes so much sense. And so the goal of today's episode is really for you guys to begin to self-assess for yourself how your inner child is showing up in your life now. Should that be anxiety, for example, what we had started this podcast talking about? Let's say you find yourself really, really anxious whenever you go to family gatherings. And you're sitting there wondering why that is. I want you to ask yourself, was there ever a time in my life as a child that it was unsafe to be at family gatherings? Did that ever mean an emotion for me? Because the thing, you guys, about our inner child and about how our mind processes, we have this thing called the amygdala that I've talked to you guys about before, and it's basically our mind's alarm system. It is what is constantly scanning our environment for threats. And when it picks up that there is a threat, so let's say that family gathering, for example, it picks up that there's a threat. The thing about our amygdala is it doesn't know if that is happening in real time or if it's something that's happened 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, which is fascinating because we can get triggered at 50 years old from an event that happened when we were 10. That is why it is so important that when we get anxious or we get overwhelmed, we take a second to tap in. Tapping into our body is the only way that we can heal it. Our words, we hear all the time, tell yourself kind things, do affirmations, do this, do the other thing. And it's like, that can work and that can be a stepping stone and that can support us towards healing and start to make it a little bit easier. But that's not fundamentally going to heal us at the core. What is going to start to heal us at the core is when we can get into our body and physiologically change our response to those things. That's why at the end of my podcast, I say, get out of your head and into your heart, getting out of our mind and into our body. And so I want you to think of a time that you typically feel super, super anxious, super overwhelmed. And the next time that that happens, and again, depending where you're at in your journey, this is going to look different for all of us. One of the best things that we can do in those moments is to notice that it's happening. Notice, just be a spectator. I'm noticing that this is happening. The second thing that's going to be helpful is to breathe. Breathing is how our body can shift from that sympathetic to parasympathetic state. We are encouraging our body with our conscious mind to shift into a state of being safe. One of the best breathing methods that I have found for calming down our nervous system is to do 2 quick inhales and a long exhale. So it's like, that is one of the best breathing techniques. Even just doing that, I literally feel calmer, and that took me 2 seconds. I encourage you to try it right now listening. Breathing is one of the best ways that we can start to come back to our body. Once we then come back to our body, again, depending where you're at, even this could already be too much. So if you're listening to this going, that would probably already be unsafe for me, I encourage you to start doing some of this work with a professional so that they can be there to help you in those moments. If you're a little bit further along in your journey, I always like to have a trauma-informed perspective on this, because I know that not all folks listening are ready for some of these things, depending on what our experiences are. Coming back to our body could be the most unsafe place to be. And so I always just like to kind of give that backstory. If you're kind of sitting there wondering, like, why wouldn't that be safe? For some folks, coming back to our body could be the least safe place, or it has been in the past. And so doing that breath work. And then the next thing that we need to do is we need to ground ourselves. We need to feel our body. We need to feel our body in a chair. We need to feel our body in real time. So maybe that's doing a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. Maybe that is, feeling the texture of your shirt and describing it out loud or in your mind. Maybe that's feeling the support of the chair beneath you. The reason, again, I'm sharing this episode from 2 perspectives, from an anxiety perspective and from an inner child perspective, because they are so tightly linked together. The title of this episode really should be How Our Inner Child Develops Anxiety in Our Future Self. That should really be the title of this. So I guess I still have the power now to change what it is. But it's just been so, I got to stop saying but to. But and like are the 2 words that I'm trying to pivot away from. So I'm trying to interpret or input new vocabulary into how I'm speaking. So when I was reflecting on this episode, I was like, there's probably so many people out there that feel helpless with feeling anxiety. The thing is if we just go to a psychiatrist or a doctor or whoever, and we get medication for our anxiety, that can help us, right? That can help soothe us. That can help. I almost like to view medication for mental health as almost like a bridge. It can help bridge us to get to a safe place to start doing the work. However, I think a lot of us, and even when I was studying social work, I had the understanding that anxiety was a chronic thing. It was a generational thing. It was something that if you have it for life. You're likely going to pass it to your kids. But the thing is you're not passing anxiety to your kids. You're not passing anxiety through generations. What you're passing through is coping strategies, resiliency, mirroring, how you respond, emotional regulation. Those are the things that we're passing. And so we're duplicating an experience. We're reinforcing experiences for the next generation and for ourselves throughout our life, because we're not doing the work to intervene. But I think that until we know and until we have factual evidence that something can be healed, who do we believe? Like, why would we not listen to our doctor who's just pushing medication on us? Why would we do the work when I can just have a quick fix? The thing is it's so empowering to know that we can start to heal our anxiety. We can start to work on it. And it's going to take time, right? If we've been shown hundreds, thousands, whatever experiences in our life of reasons to be anxious, and really, what is anxiety? If we think about it, when that alarm goes off in our brain, that amygdala goes off, signaling danger to our brain, what is happening is our body is getting ready to release cortisol, getting ready to fight, getting ready to flee, getting ready to freeze, getting ready to fawn, is getting ready to keep you safe. And so that happens. You have an experience that happens. If you grew up in a household where that had to happen all the time and that bell was constantly going off, again, we can almost become stuck in that hyper arousal state, that hypoarousal state. We can become stuck in that heightened alarm state. And so if we become stuck there for a long time, and that's been our go-to state for a long time, it's going to take time to rewire that. It's going to take time to retrain your mind that it is safe. And that is why it's so important in real time, in the moment, we catch it happening and we start to do the work to almost play it backwards. Yes, thank you, body, for letting me know that there's a potential danger. However, I got this. This actually isn't a danger. I know exactly what's going on. I can take over from here. Our body and mind, mostly our mind, will continuously try to take over, right? Because that's its job. It's its job to keep us safe. But it's also our job, as we get to control our mind, not the other way around. But so many of us let our mind control us because we don't know we have the power to turn it off. And so we get to say in real time, like, hey, brain, can you just take a second and let me drive for a minute, because you've been driving for too long. And I appreciate you keeping me safe. In this moment, I'm not really needing you to keep me safe. So one thing I really want, I have a little bit of an activity that I encourage you all to do, which brings our inner child role back into this anxiety focused podcast. I encourage you to go find a picture of yourself. Find a picture of yourself that you can have as your lock screen. You can put beside your bed. You can put it on your fridge. Put it somewhere that you're going to see it often enough that it's going to shift your awareness to them, to your younger self. And the reason that I want you to do that is because I want you to go back to their body for a second. I want you to go back to their experiences. I want you to go back to their mindset. I do this all the time, and it is so helpful. Whenever I'm feeling icky or overwhelmed, or like I'm feeling an emotion that's inexplainable, I'll go internally and I can picture this version of Jessie who is younger in her bedroom. And I'm like, what is she feeling? She's feeling the same emotion I'm feeling right now. Okay, this makes sense. When did I typically feel that emotion? When I wasn't seen, when I wasn't heard, when I wasn't validated, when I felt alone. And so now, times that I feel lonely, that comes out as disgust, as rage, as overwhelm, etc. And so I think when we have that visual for ourselves, it gives us that permission to also allow them to heal and to heal with us. Because I'll tell her all the time, you're not alone, I'm here with you. And I'll almost visualize myself bringing her back to my present body. Because if we have those parts of us that have dissociated and we've begun to dissociate, we can start to put those pieces of the puzzle together slowly over time. And so looking at a picture of ourselves and asking, looking in their eyes, what do you feel? What do you see? What are you experiencing? What are they experiencing? What do you want to tell them? What might they want to tell you? And just notice. If you feel overwhelmed doing that practice, that's actually a good thing, because it shows that there's some work to do there. That is evidence for yourself. Curiosity, asking ourselves why, being detectives. I want you to leave this episode looking at anxiety differently. I want you to look at it in the form of our bodies just recognizing something is familiar and it hasn't been good in the past. But the thing is again, because we can't distinguish the two differences, we might not know what that root start of that feeling was. And so there can be lots of other experiences that you've felt that way, but it wasn't actually appropriate to feel that way, but your mind thought that it was. And so the more that we can catch this and stop it from happening, the least it's going to lessen happening in the future. Is it still going to happen? 100%. And the thing is, you guys, is we never want to completely eliminate anxiety or depression or any of these things. We never want to completely alleviate any emotion. For basic surface level reasons that I'm sure you probably already know, but just as a reminder, our emotions are there to tell us something. If we didn't ever know, we never felt hungry, that would be super detrimental. If we never felt thirsty, that could be super detrimental. If we never got gut feelings or intuitive feelings or a rush of something that there's potential danger, we might never take action to protect ourselves. We wouldn't have all these emotions and all these feelings if our bodies weren't meant to have them. However, if we are experiencing one at too much of an influx to the point that it is taking over our life, that is when we have to be willing to start to do the work. But I'm here to tell you, lovely, anxiety can be fixed. Anxiety can be tended to. Anxiety can be healed. My level of anxiety that I had when I was even a year ago, honestly, even a year ago to now is vastly different. And that's because now when I get that feeling, I'm more curious about it than I am letting it shut me down. Because before, when I would feel anxious, I would just go internally and I would let that internal dialogue go. But the thing is our mind likes to feed off negative thoughts. And it'll keep reminiscing. But if we interrupt it, it can't keep reminiscing, but we have to be the ones to notice it. You have to know that your mind isn't going to consciously switch to the positive. That's not its role. It's trying to play through all the reasons why we need to feel this way. No shame, okay, is also the last thing I want to share. If you've experienced any of these things, or you ruminate, or you haven't done the work, or you haven't healed, or whatever, it's like, there's no stinking shame, ever. The only shame that we should ever feel is if we know we can do the work, but we just decide that we're not going to. There can be different reasons for that. If we just feel like we're scared, know that that's okay. But know that we have the choice to heal and to do the work. And think how much yourself will thank you, and the generations to follow will thank you, because all this really has been is a cycle of misinformation, a cycle of generations of also undereducation, lack of awareness. And so it's like, now that we have all this evidence and research and science and proof and all these things, it's like, we need to know that we're actually more powerful than we think. We allow our past experiences to manipulate our future more than we realize, which is a whole episode I did last week. Our past does not have to equal our future. Our past experiences do not have to keep manipulating you every single day. We have the power, the control, and the ability to interrupt them, to change them, and to be able to pivot our lives in the direction that we want to go. So if this resonates with you, I hope you know you are not alone on your journey. I am here. There is a link below to book a free 30-minute call if you would like to connect, if you'd like to explore more on this. If you are at a place where you're like, I'm really needing support, I definitely encourage you to seek proper counseling, therapy, whatever that is for you. If you're needing support with setting that up with someone local in your area, I am more than willing to help support you do that as well. My goal and mission, as always, is to help as many people feel safe in embarking on a therapeutic journey to heal themselves, and of knowing that it's possible, but most importantly, that it's going to be worth it. I am sitting here. I actually read a comment. My mom had shared my podcast on Facebook, and someone had commented and said, I remember seeing her when she was much younger. She was so shy, she was clinging onto her dad's leg. I am so glad to see she is coming out of her shell. And then there was something else after that. And I was just like, I literally, you guys, used to be the shyest person. I almost got the boot from university because I wasn't speaking. I was terrified of people. I have a turtle on my wrist. I share this with you guys all the time because I literally felt like I needed to protect myself with every ounce of me. And since going through therapy and doing the work and really just opening my mind and learning that it's possible, it's just such an empowering feeling to have. And so I hope I can radiate that through my microphone every single week with each and every one of you. So all the love, you guys. Happy Tuesday. Love you on your inner child. Give them some validation. Give them some love. Know that your anxiety can and will get better. We just have to be willing to look at it from that lens, be hopeful, and begin to do 1%. 1% over time will compound, but we have to know that to be willing to start and know that it will be worth it. So thank you guys so much as always. I look forward to chatting with you all on Thursday. Bye, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode of Rewire to Inspire. I absolutely love connecting with you all, so make sure you're following me on Instagram. I am at Jessie Brown 13. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave a review or share with someone you think would enjoy. I look forward to chatting with you all next episode. And remember, get out of your head and into your heart.